Hey guys, so I realized that I have skipped two Teacher Tuesdays in a row, so I figured that I would finally send out a new video even though it's Thursday. That's okay, let it slide. So, right now I'm back in Cleveland, Ohio. I've been here for a few weeks now visiting family and friends. And then on Saturday, I'm going to be heading back to Peru to grab some things that I left there. And then after that, I'm going to be heading to one of my favorite places in the world, the Amazon. So I'll be heading to Quito, Ecuador first, and then I'll be taking a bus to a place called Tena. Now, I've been to the Amazon in a few different places. I've been to the Amazon in Colombia, a place called Leticia, which is the southernmost point in Colombia. They call it Las Tres Fronteras, the three borders, because that's where Colombia, Peru, and Brazil all meet together. When you're in Leticia, if you cross the street, you can go into Brazil, and if you're looking at the other side of the river, you're looking at Peru. And then I was in a different part of the Peruvian Amazon, more of the high jungle, for several months. I've been there a number of times. I've probably lived in the Amazon for like maybe a year and a half in total now. But I've never been to the Ecuadorian Amazon, so I'm very excited to see what that part of the Amazon looks like. I think it's going to be a little bit more similar to how it was when I was in Colombia. But it brings up an interesting theme of trying to figure out where our next steps are, trying to figure out where that path in life should take us. And a lot of times, I mean, especially when I was younger, I would always think about things in a very logical way, trying to plan things out, trying to figure out point A, B, C, and then make that plan unfold one step at a time. But that's a very kind of controlling way to go about doing things. You can get kind of rigid. And oftentimes, when we're trying to plan something out in that way, we are creating a lot of expectations. We have some end goal that we're trying to get to, but we are creating these expectations as to what it's going to be like when we get there, right? And so we're making a lot of assumptions as we do that. And then when we finally get to that end goal, if we are able to get to that point, a lot of times it's different than we thought, or maybe we feel a little bit let down because it doesn't live up to the expectations that we are creating. And I think that as I've learned to relax more in my own path, I've learned that rather than using my mind to figure out where that next step is, I have to instead learn to listen to my heart and to not think about things in such a rigid way, A, B, C, then I'll get to D. Because again, it creates a lot of tension in the process, right? We try to force things because we so badly want that end goal that we're trying to get to. And so now, as I've relaxed more into my process, I really just focus on where am I right now in the moment? How do I feel in this moment? And what can I do in this moment so that I feel better? And sometimes that means making a small change, like making a change in my diet. Realizing that the way that I'm eating isn't making me feel good physically, and I need to change what I'm eating so that I feel better. Sometimes it's realizing that maybe I'm not in the best headspace. Maybe I have to change my surroundings. Maybe I have to go outside and walk around in a park. Or maybe I have to make a big change and change the city or the country where I am. Now, obviously, a lot of you guys are in high school and you don't necessarily have that freedom right now in your lives, but eventually you will. And so I think it's important to start thinking about things in this way and opening our minds to the possibilities. Because, the most incredible things that have happened to me have been things that I could have never planned for. And they were things that oftentimes meant that I had to abandon the plan that I had, set up for myself. For example, for a long time I was in pre-med. I was pre-med for 3 years. And my junior year or my senior year, I forget which, I guess it would have had to be my junior year, my third year of studying pre-med. I was getting ready to take the MCATs, the big test that you have to take in order to get into med school. And my dad and I, after studying for an entire year, we're driving to go to the testing center, and we show up to the library where my dad thought that the test was being held, and I knock on the door, and it's locked, and this janitor comes out and he opens the door and he says, "Why are you here?" And I say, "Well, I'm here for the MCAT." And he looks at me and he says, "The MCAT isn't here." And I was like, "Well, do you know where it is?" And he was like, "No, I don't know where the MCAT is." So my dad and I drive around and around and around trying to find where the MCAT is being held. And it gets to the point where we're, like 15, 20 minutes past the start of the test. And at that point, I knew they weren't going to let me in. So I just told my dad to drive, back home. I missed the MCAT. And, looking back in that moment, wow, super frustrating, right? I've spent 3 years of my life trying to get into med school, taking all of these classes. I spent a year studying for this test, and then I missed the test. But you know what? After that, I realized maybe med school isn't really for me. And I started thinking about other paths that I would want to take. In my senior year, I loaded up on a bunch of statistics classes because I love statistics. I got a whole bunch of my requirements done to get my statistics minor. I majored in neuroscience, and then I was able to pull off the minor in statistics at the very end. And then I ended up getting my master's degree in statistics instead. And looking back, if I had taken the MCAT, I think I probably would have continued to go through the process of going to med school and becoming a doctor, but I don't think that I would have been happy in that field. That was clearly not the path for me. And in that one very important moment, it was like the universe, life just took over, right? And it said, "This isn't the path for you. You're not going to find the building where you're supposed to take this test because you're supposed to be doing something else." And once I got over that initial frustration at not being able to reach that goal that I had set for myself, I was able to find a path that was really much more important for me to take. And then understanding all the things that followed after that, looking at the path that my life has taken because of that one very important moment, wow. I've had so many different experiences that I would have never had if I had continued and went on to med school. So oftentimes, life just kind of takes over. And it's best to just let ourselves flow with the momentum that is pushing us in a specific direction. There is a reason why these things are happening, and we may not necessarily understand why in that moment, but later on we can look back and say, "Oh wow, what an important moment that was." And I have many other different experiences and stories that I could share with you about how I thought I was going one direction and then bam, I ended up going another. And what it's taught me is to stop planning so much, to stop trying to control everything and feeling this tension as you try to manipulate everything to be exactly the way that you want it to be. Just allow things to happen naturally and notice how you feel, right? Notice how you feel in each moment and figure out what you can do to feel better. Do everything that you can that's in your control. And for the things that are out of your control, well, then you just try to figure out how maybe you can change your perspective so you begin relating to the experience that you're being presented with in a different way. So, for example, right now I'm in Cleveland. It's cold here. I'm not a fan of the cold. There's a reason why I'm living in Latin America, but I can't change the weather. So what do? Well, I bundle up, right? I get my sweater on. I've got my jacket. I've got my my poncho here that you see me wearing in some of my videos sometimes so I can get nice and cozy, right? I get hot chocolate, and I try to enjoy the cold as much as I can because you know what? Experiencing the cold right now is going to help me enjoy and appreciate the warmth that much more when I finally get back down south to Peru and then into the Amazon rainforest. So the next time I send you guys a video, chances are you're going to see me in the jungle. I'm working on part 3 of the Peruvian adventure. That'll be coming out soon. I've got to finish translating the Spanish parts because I was doing some interviews in Spanish, so I have to translate those for you guys. And then I'm going to be working on the special edition Teacher Tuesday for the World Cup. I've got a ton of footage, so that's going to take me a while to get through. I want to get you guys the Peruvian adventure first so you guys can get another Teacher Tuesday video like the others, so you guys can check that out. That'll probably be coming out next week, maybe 2 weeks max, but I think by next week I'll have that done. And then, I'll take you guys to Ecuador for the World Cup, and I'll show you the experience that I had there. I hope you guys are having a great week. Sorry about skipping the last 2 Teacher Tuesdays. I'll try to be better about that, and I'll see you guys next time.